everyone to the Panther City Partners podcast. I'm Leann Findley Maxwell with Panther City Partners. I am a personal development coach focused on working with people going through life transitions. And so I'm very fortunate to have back with me this week, Emily McDermott, to talk about the family's transition back to the States. So thank you again for being here, Emily.
Of course.
And last week we talked about the transition and the idea to move to Germany and the experiences and the resilience and courage that your whole family showed while y'all were there. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about coming home, because that, even though maybe you were ready and wanted to come home, that still is another huge transition.
It is. It was in some ways almost a bigger transition for us coming home than it was moving there.
What do you think made it a bigger transition?
Well, a new baby.
Yes.
Will do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Having like this 5-year-old now who had created all these strong friendships and
She'd
relationships
grown up over there.
That was where her childhood happened, you know, in her head. It was like this was all she knew, was riding the train and, you know, cold weather and cloudy days and going to the same school with her same friends. And so that was a real challenge for her. It was like leaving all of that behind, right? You know, everything. She didn't remember her life in Fort Worth when we moved back. She didn't remember. She knew that our house was red, but that was about it. You know, it was like that was her whole life. Yeah. So that, I think, made it a lot tougher of a transition.
Yeah. So what did bring y'all back?
Well, so the goal when we went over was, you know, spend the 2 years over there, finish the master's program, and move home. That was kind of the idea. And we had reached, you know, 2.5 years, and we had Maeve, and it was just kind of this thing. And I was definitely more ready than anybody else to come home. I think Tim would have been happy to stay longer, and Molly obviously would have been fine. But we had the opportunity to get Molly into a really good school in our neighborhood. And if you don't get them in kindergarten, there's almost no chance to get them in afterward. And I didn't really want to let that go. I wasn't really willing to just put her in anywhere. And I really liked the school. And when I found out that she'd gotten in, I was like, okay, man, that kind of solidifies it for me, is like making sure that she gets in, and her best friends had gotten in also, and just honestly our neighborhood, you know, Fairmount, coming home, and I grew up, you know, riding my bike across the street and having my little, you know, clan of kids that we just like ruled the roost every summer. And that was really, I think, important for me, for Molly, for my children to grow up in a place where they can just kind of run across the street and say hey, or, you know, run next door and see a bunch of really good friends and create those memories that can last forever. And that wasn't something that we were going to be able to get over there.
Okay. So it was time to come home.
Yeah. It was just kind of it felt right. It just felt right. And so, yeah, especially once we got that letter that she had gotten in. Yeah, that was kind of the thing.
So last time you talked about taking off the comfortable sweater of Fort Worth and now putting it back on, but I'm sure things had changed.
It was
when you came back.
Different. Yeah, it was really different. I mean, Fort Worth has just blossomed in the 2.5 years that we had been gone. There were all these new restaurants, new people living in our neighborhood. We're like, who are you people? And you know, new roads and just a completely different atmosphere. While it was still the same old Fort Worth that we'd, you know, always known, it was still just like, so I remember driving over by Bryant Irvin and seeing like the what is it, the REI that's out there now. You know,
all that waterfront area.
Oh my gosh, what is this place? You know, it's just gotten, and I went to school at Country Day, so that was like used to be my like neighborhood. I was like, oh my gosh, this place is so different. It almost doesn't feel like the same place. Yeah. You know, it almost didn't. But then once we got in, I think Finley came over like a week after we moved home, and
she was so excited that Molly was home.
It was such a like sweet moment for me. I was like, okay, this is gonna be good. And you know, Tim hadn't finished his master's program yet, so he was still over there when we moved home, and then we all moved home together, and then he had to go back, and he was gone total about 14 weeks.
Wow.
Out of this last year.
Right. And you had a kindergartner and
a new baby.
A new baby.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was really, really, really challenging. And I really, luckily, you know, we moved home, so we had extra hands and people to help support, which I needed drastically. But yeah, that was a really hard. It's been a really hard year. You know, I think we moved almost exactly 1 year ago.
Oh yeah,
almost exactly 1 year ago.
Right at the end of the school year last year.
Yeah. So when we left, we made a big deal because one of the best things about being over in Berlin is being in Europe and being able to take a train to wherever, and you're in a completely different country. And so when we left, we made it a point. We went from, we left Berlin and we took a train to Amsterdam, and we met my mom and her boyfriend there.
Okay.
And then from Amsterdam, we took a train to like Strasbourg or something. I don't remember where we ended up, but then we went to Disneyland Paris.
Oh, that's cool.
And then from Disneyland Paris, we went to Frankfurt to catch our flight home. So we ended up having like a 2-week little mini vacation over there before moving back home completely. So that kind of softened the blow a little bit.
Sure.
Getting to go to these like really fun places before coming back. So I think that helped a lot. But yeah, then getting home and just like opening the door. I remember how hot it felt.
So you had been so cold, hating it, and then you came home to Texas
it's like
summer.
100 degrees. It's like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this.
It didn't take long to forget.
No, it doesn't.
So what has your life been like in this last year? I know Tim was gone a lot. And you guys, I mean, you just trudged on through.
Yeah.
Your resilience and your courage has kicked back in. So what are some things that you had to be courageous about here?
Oh my gosh, so much. This year has been crazy, crazy hard. Having, you know, a new baby and a 5-year-old and being all by yourself, essentially putting bedtime is such a big thing. It was like a 2-hour ordeal for me, like getting them to bed. I just remember patience, so much patience. It took me so many deep breaths to just like be able to do it all the time, and just running on very little sleep is such a challenge for anybody under the best of circumstances. And honestly, I think I just kind of, you know, when Molly started school, I threw myself, I was like, I will be, you know, room mom. I will do what I can to just like get involved in this new school that we're starting at and try and make myself available, and which helped a whole lot. And being a brand new kindergarten mom is hard.
Yeah, it is.
You don't know how things work, you know, and you're just kind of going at it blind, with your only experience being, I was a kindergartner.
Right. Which was a long time ago now.
Exactly. So it's like really the best way, you know, I was like, I just hope that a veteran kindergarten mom will like take me under her wing and like show me how to do stuff. And luckily Molly's school is just like full of community. And
good.
I had just that.
Yeah.
I had this my co-room mom really kind of helped me remind myself, you know, you're doing a great job.
Right.
And you're not alone, and we're all exhausted. And how many texts I got, you know, she was in charge of making the snack calendar, and she's like, well, I make the snack calendar and I forgot my snack again for the 3rd time. So knowing that you're not alone in all of those things is, you know, so important. Anytime you think that like you're doing it wrong, or, you know, you second guess yourself, it seems like the universe comes forward and is like, look, this other person's doing it too. You're not alone.
Right.
And that was such a comfort to me, you know, knowing that challenges are normal.
Challenges are normal, and there's more than one right way to do things. I think that sometimes as parents, especially with young kids and not knowing, what am I doing? You know, when Walker went off to kindergarten, it was that nervousness of like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then when Finley went off, I was like, oh, we got this.
Yeah.
And we did different things in some ways with both of them, but they were both the right thing to do. And realizing that there's not just one right answer out there for how we're going to send our kids to school, or how we're going to make sure we get the snacks there.
Absolutely.
You know, sometimes snacks, when we had kindergarten snacks, sometimes they were like really healthy things, and sometimes they were cheese balls because that's what the kids wanted, and that's what I had time to go get.
Exactly.
And they're all fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that like as a society, we tell there's just so much advice out there, right? There's like, we'll do this, but don't do it too much. And, you know, make sure that they're reading by 6 or whatever. And having just come from Germany where she went to a kindergarten with absolutely 0 lessons.
Right.
There was no letters on the wall. There were no math problems anywhere. There were no shapes. There was no, there was nothing. It was all just play.
Right. Just socializing.
And learning through your experiences and remembering that we had just come from that to where we are now a year later. I'm like, I'm not worried about reading levels.
They're gonna be fine.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna make it, and in some ways work for some kids that don't work for others. Right. And I imagine that's what I'll learn with Maeve too. Coming along, it's like, well, what worked for Molly isn't working for this one. So being flexible yourself is super important.
Yeah, and listening to that advice and taking what works for you and just discarding the rest.
Yes, that is exactly what what I've been asking myself lately is this serving me?
Oh, that's a really good question to ask yourself.
Is this serving me? Is my go-to reaction a lot of times, I'm not a super patient person. I tend to lose my temper. And so I have to ask myself, okay, I'm starting to get mad. Is it serving me to get mad right now? Yeah. And sometimes it is.
Sure.
Other times it's not. And I have to say, okay, I need to reevaluate this. Maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to step outside for a minute, but if this isn't serving me, then I need to let it go. Yeah. So that's been something I've been asking myself a lot.
That's a great idea. Just having that awareness in that moment, which can be really hard because when the blood gets pumping and the emotions start flaring, it can be really hard to even remember that that's a question you want to ask yourself.
Absolutely.
So having that awareness is amazing.
Well, and honestly, it's like I said, this has been a really challenging year. I sought help.
Oh, yeah.
I found myself a therapist and we talk and I love it. It is an hour a week that I just get to spend. And like, people are like hounding on self-care, right? It's like self-care. Self-care isn't always just a bubble bath and a glass of wine. Self-care is like actually doing that work that can really change you and make you into the best version of yourself that you can be. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, a bubble bath and a glass of wine is great, but like self-care can also be mental health awareness and realizing, I can't do this right now. Yeah. And I need to do something for me. And that was the absolute best choice I've ever made.
Awesome.
Yeah.
With coaching, it's kind of the same thing. It's like if you're stuck, I feel like when you're coaching, it's not about necessarily pulling someone from a bad place to a better place. It's pulling someone from a pretty good place to an even better place because maybe they're just stuck and they just need to spend a little bit of time, like you said, and put in a little bit of work and have someone like a therapist or a coach, which do two different things, but it is still going to a person and talking through them
about it, just talking
and not being
about
afraid to talk about these things.
Which is, especially as new moms, it's so scary. You're like, well, if I go and say that I need help, are they going to take my child? Are people going to think I'm a crazy person? Right. And the answer is like, just do it. Yeah. Do it because it's what's best for you. And ultimately that's, you have to put your air mask on yourself before you can put it on someone else. Right. So that's, I was definitely putting masks on everybody else before myself and I was sinking. Yeah. And I needed to get out of that. And it has been such an amazing experience for me.
Great. Yeah. That you were able to find that, to realize that you needed it, and then to seek that help. Yeah.
And it's completely like changed the course of like where I thought my life was going and where it's going now. Yeah. Moving back home and going through this transition and then going to therapy. I've kind of reevaluated what I want to do and who I want to be. And, I wrote a children's book while I was in Berlin. And right now I'm working on trying to get it published. That's awesome. So it's kind of like all this stuff that I'd written while I was over there was just sitting. And it was good stuff. Yeah. And I was like, do I want people to read it? These are like my innermost thoughts. And it's like, well, why did you write them down? Right. If you didn't want someone to read it, why did you write it down? And it's like, there was a part of me that knew all along, like I wanted someone to read it, but I wasn't like, it was like, oh, it's just for me. Right. And it's fine if you write just for yourself. But
yeah, that's a great thing too.
Yeah. But I think for me, the way I was writing was like, I want someone to read this and to know that like you're not alone in your experience.
Right. Again. And so you had to be courageous again to be like, okay, I'm ready to put this out there.
Yeah, it's scary. It's a super scary thing to, put something out there, whether it's a new podcast or a book or, singing or being on stage. I got to be on stage again this year, which was such a treat and such a therapeutic experience in and of itself. So all that stuff is scary. It's scary stuff being a grown-up, man.
It is. Oh my gosh. My dad used to say to me all the time, you're going to love being a grown-up. Anytime I was dealing with some little thing, he'd be like, oh, you're going to love being a grown-up. And I find myself saying that in my head all the time with some of my clients and with my own kids. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how easy your life is right now. But that's not to take away from in that moment. Your experience is valid. And, you know, some of the things our kids are going through, they're very real. And it is the most important thing to them. And so as a parent, sometimes to just remind myself, hey, that was 1,000 years ago. It feels like that I experienced that, but I did have some of these same fears or some of these same struggles with emotions. You know, this morning Walker and Finley were arguing and she was saying that he's being mean to me. And I said to her, if you get upset every time he's mean to you, you're going to spend your whole life mad. And is that how you want to be? And she's like, but I love him so much. And I remember feeling that with my own brother of like, I know logically I can't let this get to me, but emotionally it's really hard to separate that. And she does adore him. And so she wants him to not be rude to her or whatever, but but as a parent to think, okay, I can't just give her the logical, I have to let her be in this moment and be here with her. Yes. And feel those feelings. And then we can move past it in a little bit.
Exactly. Which is such a hard lesson.
It is. And it's really hard to do when you're struggling yourself as a parent.
Yes.
So the fact that you went and got the help that you needed, the help that was right for you, not only helped you put your own mask on first, but now you're better able to help Molly feel her feelings because you allowed yourself to feel them too.
Absolutely. It's totally like revolutionized the way I look at like parenting in general. It's like I'm not like this person in charge of you, you know. It's this the kind of Montessori thing. It's like I'm a facilitator for your life. I'm here to make sure you don't get hurt, you know, or harm yourself or others, anything like that. Other than that, this is your game, sister. You know, you go do what you need to do, which is so hard to do. It is so hard,
especially when I grew up, that's not the way parents did things.
Yeah.
They were the people in charge and you do this and you do it this way or you don't do it.
Exactly.
And you can scream about it, but that's not going to change anything.
Yeah. You're still going to have to do it.
Right. To be this facilitator of, it's so easy for me to revert back into this other role. And I do think that sometimes there can be a place for that because I try to tell Walker, we are not equals, but I'm trying to give you your space to be who you're going to be. You need to, I feel like I just need him sometimes to recognize that.
Yeah. No, I totally, well, and sometimes it's like, I'll have to look at Molly and I'll be like, Molly, usually I'm really good about like letting you make your own decisions. But right now we are 10 minutes late and you're wanting to bring 67 stuffed animals in the car. That's not going to happen. Go get in the car. Right. It's like at some point you do have to draw a line. They are little tiny dictators and they will rule your life if you let them. But they're, you know, boundaries.
Yeah.
Create
just
boundaries,
having those boundaries.
Healthy boundaries. That's key to success.
Right. Creating them for yourself and creating them with your children.
Absolutely.
So that they understand what boundaries are too.
Yeah. And when those boundaries have been someone has gone over your boundary and you know when to say, hey, you know what, this is my line and you crossed it and I don't appreciate that. And being able to use your voice and all of those things.
It's really important. So I'm thinking about this work that you did for yourself and you single parented it a lot this last year. How did Tim coming back home to stay he was in and out
for a long time. He was in and out, and then was it January or February he came back, and it's pretty much was the big chunk.
And that can change things too, because if you kind of get into your own rhythm with the girls, then he comes in and throws things off.
It really, it did. It totally changed the way things were working for us, and that's okay. We just had to figure out a way to work around it together, and we're still kind of figuring it out. You know, I think that's the transition period. He's going back over mid-June to finish up his thesis, his master's thesis, and defend it and stuff like that. So that's going to be hard. But he's only going for like 2 weeks this time, so it's a short trip, and he's going to kind of, you know, wrap up all of the, you know, bank accounts and
all those loose ends,
kind of finish up all that stuff, which is he's got the passport to do it, so I can't really do anything anyways.
So you're each taking on the roles that you can take on.
Right. Yeah. Do what you can.
Right.
Is kind of what I've been trying to do. And again, it's like some days when you can't, it's okay. You know, if you need someone to come, you know, call your mom or, you know, call your village and say, hey, I can't handle this right now. I need some help. And, but Tim's been so great. He's been finishing this thesis. I feel so horrible. It's just, you know, was it 50 or 100 page monster paper, and it's political science.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's like very, you know, tedious work, the research and all that stuff. But on top of that, trying to be this great dad, and he totally recognized, like, having been gone and missed so many months of like May's life, especially. It's like she was just this teeny little, you know, munchkin, and now she's like this walking, talking little
full-on person.
And he's really taken that head on, and just loves being around her. And he was really nervous about having a new baby, and just kind of those fears, like, am I going to be able to love her as much as I love the other? And, you know, is my heart big enough? And I think we've both learned that, like, love doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't at all. It's not this finite thing. Exactly. That there's only a little bit to go around.
Exactly. It's
your heart just gets
endless.
bigger.
That's right. That's right. So that's been such a joy, getting to not only learn to, like, love this other little wonderful human, but learning to love yourself in the process. You know, becoming a parent once over is a huge transition. Becoming a parent twice over is another huge transition. And you just kind of have to, like, take it on, you know, and be like, okay, well, this is a new chapter of my book. Who am I going to be this time? Right. You know, what's going to serve me?
Take the things that were serving you before and use them, and then you might find new things that can serve you this time.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how has your family and friend and your support group embraced y'all coming home, or how has that worked out?
You know, it's really funny. You spend so long overseas in a different country, and everyone's like, we can't wait for you to move home. We can't wait for you to move home. And then you move home, and it's like, you see them less often now than you did when you lived in Germany. Tends to be the way life goes, but, you know, that's life. Sometimes it works, and when it does, it's great. And people come over, we go out there, or whatever. But when Tim was gone, I had just, like, everyone was more than willing to be there for me. But then when Tim came home, it's kind of like, okay, they can take a step back now because Tim's home. You got this, Tim, right? And so it really, you know, we don't see as much of people as we kind of thought we would. And there are things that I remember moving home and saying, I want to have, like, a backyard barbecue or something, like, once a month, and just like have an open invitation. And I'm like, that grill hasn't even been cleaned since we got home. You know,
some things are gonna have to wait.
But this is, again, on my agenda. This is on my list.
Okay,
for starting in fall. It's like, I want to have, like, a monthly get together and just, like, open invitation, bring whatever you want. Because that's what I missed over there, was having a big community of people, that I can love and rely on. And I will say, it's funny, I text a lot more with my friends now that I'm here.
Oh, interesting.
Than I did over there. I don't know if it's just, like, being in the same time zone or what, but I definitely, like, just text really regularly with my friends, having moved back. So
that's just kind of like your way to stay engaged with them, even though you're not talking or seeing each other as much.
Absolutely. And luckily, having been in Fort Worth forever and have this big comfy sweater on, I have all these wonderful big comfy friends that even if we don't talk for a month, you know, 2 months, a year, we get together and we go to Joe T's and get some queso and a margarita, and it's like no time has passed at all.
Great. So what are you doing? So those are your relationships here, but you built relationships while you were in Germany. And with people, it sounds like, from all over the world. So what are you doing to kind of, are you trying to cultivate those relationships? And what does that look like?
So Molly's best friend over there, her name was Mika, and she is a hoot. We miss her a lot, but we send videos since the time difference is kind of hard to catch with kids, FaceTime and stuff like that. So
they have to go to bed.
We send videos back and forth, like on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp is the big communication tool that we were using. So they send videos to each other and ask kindergarten questions.
Oh,
you know,
sweet.
What are you doing, or who are your friends, or what shows do you like to watch? And A friend of mine over there, Lee, Mika's mom, we became pretty good friends. She was like, hey, are you guys coming to Berlin anytime soon? Because I need a new blender. And they're really inexpensive in America and very expensive here. And I was like, sure, I'll go to Costco and get you a blender.
Send it with Tim.
Yeah. So it's funny things like that.
Yeah.
That's like, you just kind of, you keep in touch. And they travel a lot and they're from Australia. And so I told her, I was like, next time you guys are planning a trip to Australia, tell us and maybe we can try and make a trip over there and we can all get together in Australia, which of course we've never done before, which would be so much fun.
That would be awesome.
Them being from there and showing us around.
Yeah.
And I told them the same thing about Texas, like come on down to Texas and
all kinds of fun things to see here.
Exactly. So that's the main, friendship, especially for Molly, that we formed. And then Tim, when me and the girls moved home, Tim had some roommates over there who were still over there who we're in contact with, and Erica's his main roommate, and she's awesome, and she's in the same program with him at the Freie Universität, and she's awesome. We did the women's march with her when we were over there. Yeah. She's from San Diego, and so you just kind of. I think it's the same stuff over here as it was over there. It's like you text when you can, you communicate when you can, and then when you see each other, it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah. Having these apps like WhatsApp, that's what we use a lot with my family. We have a family chat. And so my sister who lives in Honduras and my brother and his wife who live in Austin, and we can all post things on it. And then it's like we're talking. We don't have to talk every day, but you can post a video of what the kids are doing, or they can say, oh, we went here, or we did this. And it's just a way for us to be involved in each other's lives, but not have to get on the phone for 2 hours every day or every week with every different.
Or broadcast your whole life on Facebook.
Right,
or,
exactly. It's just our closed group that's just our family. Yeah. And so we can broadcast as much as we feel comfortable with on that group.
Exactly. Yeah. WhatsApp is such a great tool for that. And me and my friends here, actually, my group of girlfriends from Country Day, who now we live all over the place, we started a group chat. Because I told them, I was like, let's use WhatsApp. It's so much easier.
We've gotten it with our friends too.
Yeah. It's so much easier than all the other ones. So that's definitely a great tool to stay in touch and just little videos or things, Maeve crawling or stuff like that you want to share. That's great. It's a great tool.
And then you can use something like Instagram or Facebook to go to your wider audience, but maybe fewer details.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when we first moved to Berlin, I was like, I had to get everything in my head on out and share with people, and that was helpful for me. But now I wanted to rein it in a little bit, so I did.
That's nice. Yeah, you can make that choice about what's comfortable for you.
Boundaries.
Right. Boundaries. I'm wondering just a little bit more about Molly in kindergarten. How that transition this whole year. Because, the beginning of kindergarten is so different now that we're at the very end of kindergarten. Yes. It's amazing to me how much the kids change from the very first day of school to the last day of school. Every year, but especially in that kindergarten year. Because they go in as like babies and they come out as school agers.
Oh my gosh, yes. She is such a little school ager. She has this boyfriend and she loves him. She's so funny. I went for like the Mother's Day tea and we were having our little snack and Molly goes, excuse me, John, I'd like a donut and a hug. And he went over and he got her a donut and came and gave her a hug and he just goes, anything else? She goes, no, that's it. I'm finished.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, yes, girl.
Wow.
You know how this works. Oh, it was hilarious. But yeah, she's just like, when we moved, she was really nervous. She was because her English had declined and wasn't like as strong as her German was at that point. And so that was a hard transition for her. And then going into the classroom where she had been playing and like eating outside and
it's way more structured here.
Yeah, I mean every Wednesday she was like out in the woods with like wild pigs and things, and then now she's like here where it's like 30-minute recess and that's it, which was a really, really hard transition for her. It was very difficult and she didn't understand why she didn't have that freedom that she had used to have. But again, she immediately made just a lot of really close friends who I'm sure will be her friends for many years to come, and had a great teacher who worked with us, when I expressed that I was nervous about her language and, not feeling comfortable or whatever. She was just really great about communicating with us. And when I told her, look, Tim's out of town for the next 6 weeks, she was great and would talk with Molly and always, be open. So having that sense of support, like knowing that like I wasn't just sending my kid into like a pit of piranhas or something.
It feels like it, but it's usually not.
It's usually not a pit of piranhas. Not that bad. But yeah, no, she really just took to it and has just flourished. And she's just a reader. She reads all the time now. And yeah, she's ready for first grade.
That's exciting. And how are you doing with her transitions?
Struggling.
Yeah.
It's better that I have a baby, so I can still like have a baby to like hold on to.
Right.
But she still, of course, will do little things that, I'm still your baby, or watching her get to like be a big sister, and that transition has been such a great thing to watch. And
so it sounds like through the course of all of this, through moving to Germany and moving home, all of that, these are the big things I hear you talking about. It's about having a support system, and sometimes that's a support system of just one other person. In those really, really tough moments, you had Tim there, and even if you didn't have anybody else, you at least had each other, and that's a huge deal to have those people around. And also, I hear a lot about resilience and courage, and using those skills and cultivating those skills. I mean, those aren't just skills that just come to you. You have to really work at them, and taking that comfortable Fort Worth sweater off to move to Germany. And then coming home, if you had never taken that comfortable Fort Worth sweater off, you may not have developed those resilient skills or those skills of courage like you did, because you were able to take that leap.
Certainly not. Certainly not. And always knowing that I could always come home to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
That it was always here waiting for me, that all of those things that I loved so dearly would always be here to pick me up if I fell down. Knowing that was here was just a saving grace for sure.
Yeah, you could just remember that we were all back here waiting for you. The whole city was here.
Yeah, that sweater was in the closet.
That's right.
Just waiting.
It's just waiting. It'll fit just right when you're ready to put it back on. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I have really enjoyed speaking to you about this and getting to know your strategies for resilience and courage, and how you've cultivated those in your girls, and how you and Tim are working through those. And that one thing I wanted to say is that help-seeking behavior is so important, and it can be so hard to develop, because we do come from a culture where it's pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do it yourself. And it really is an incredible skill to have, that help-seeking skill. So congratulations to you and your whole family. I'm so excited that y'all are home.
Thanks. We are too.
And thank you so much out there for listening to us. We really appreciate you being a part of our stories of transition and change, Fort Worth style. Thank you again. We'll be back next week with more stories. Remember, the only constant is change, but you don't have to go it alone. And check me out on Instagram at Panther City Partners. I'm Leann Maxwell, and this is Panther City Partners Podcast. Thank you.